everybody is dead or broken inside. But there's two rooms that you can still get in. In one there's a Picasso, whose owner died, unfortunately. And in the other is a baby whose parents died. By a raise of hands, who saves the baby? You can only save one thing. How many babies can you save if you sell a Picasso? So these are very, very difficult philosophical questions that we struggle to answer as humans, right? Because we know, we take the Picasso, we sell it, we say all the babies in Africa, good. But it's hard. When you're faced with it, you'll say, I'll save the baby, by the way. I can see some of you looking at me, monster! Monster! No, I'll save the baby. But if you think about saving people, that isn't the right thing to do. That is the right thing to do. Make sense? So we're asking machines to make that kind of decision now. We're asking artificial intelligence to decide that. It just puts in perspective what a task we have at hand. Which is why I'm going to lead by saying we know nothing. And the second part of my statement is that's why we got Adam from Satya who knows something. Because they specialize in building AI solutions, and to build stuff you have to understand it. So welcome everybody, my name is Luca, I head up Genie. You are forcefully being gifted with a book, 308 pages of the stuff that we did to grow a business that doesn't just want to be a business. This isn't a sales pitch, and even if it was, wouldn't be pushing it, but we try to build something that is a bit special and adds value to people. We want to create a place where people can come to work. And the analogy that we always give is that we'd love to think that if we were to move office, and because of logistics we would have to close the office for 2 weeks and people have to work from home for 2 weeks, we love to think that our employees would feel sad. We love to think that they miss us so much that they wouldn't like the idea. And that's the internal mission. The external mission is that we want to revolutionize the marketing for our clients, but also the industry of it, which is why I wrote that book. Google invited me to speak at their events to the top 3% agencies, and I was both very surprised and very pleased to see that some of the stuff that we did seemed to be very well received and adopted by other agencies. So we thought, let's write an article about it, and an article turned into a book, much like my 6 months in the UK 17 years ago turned into 17 years. And then we put everything that we did in there to grow a business that people love. And the vision for today is really to address some challenges and give you some answers. There are stuff about AI that we don't know. There are stuff about AI that we know. And there are stuff that we need to do. So we want to address this wonderful subject with a positive mindset, which is like we address everything else. It is the best time to be you. And by you, I mean people, CEOs, MDs, employees, partners, e-commerce guys, agencies. And it is the best time to be you, even if stuff like this happens. I know it's hard to believe. You think, what the hell? Good morning, guys. Hey. It is the best time to be you, so you should be feeling a bit more like this. If you will. It is the best time to be you for many, many reasons. I could go into the crime rate being the lowest that's ever been historically, the poverty rate being the lowest that's ever been historically. I can go into all these stats which I want. But also in terms of business, it's the best time to be you because it's an open market. It's more and more and more normal to do business across borders. Consumers are happy to buy stuff across borders. Agencies are happy to manage accounts across borders. Retail brands are happy and excited to do stuff across borders. That wasn't always like that. In fact, only 5 or 6 years ago, that wasn't really very accessible. And think about the excitement of being a market that is open. We can go everywhere. It's amazing. Technology, which is really the core of what we're talking about here today. Technology is amazing. I mean, I was playing the piano. I was playing with the piano at home. And I didn't know how to do one chord, but I don't know how to do many chords. But that one particular, I was reading off the phone and I said, hey Google, how do you play B minor? And it told me. And I could just go on and play with the piano. It's amazing, right? It's truly unbelievable. We had some of these books that we had to send to our publicist. and there's witnesses in the audience. I booked a DHL collection, and my email confirmation was still open. Somebody walks into the office and says, I'm here to collect a parcel. I said, what the hell? I literally just clicked the button 5 seconds ago. I said, well, I was in an office downstairs. I got a notification. And it's amazing, right? So it is the best time to be asked for many things, for many reasons. And lastly, it's the best time to be asked because consumers are okay with technology. Do you remember people saying, oh, I visited this site and now I see the advertisement of this site everywhere. It's, black magic, they're following me, they know everything about me. Do you remember the real fear that it was? That was a real thing. My mom was like that, she wanted to sue people, right? And now I think consumers are more okay with it. They understand that they're actually safe. GDPR helped some of us and killed some others. But I think it really is the best time to be asked. But it comes with a little bit of, even cats are okay with technology. But there is a little bit of a caveat. So I'm going to give you some expectations for today. I thought this was my cleverest expectation. Again? Bad joke, right. There's a little bit of a caveat. Even in things like AI, that people are very eager to think they don't apply to them, it's too far, it's not here yet. I put it in silence, but when I said on the piano, hey Google, how do you play the minor? And it's beginning to work for me. So it's actually here, it's not really that far. There is a caveat. Who are we going to put under the spotlight? Can I have a volunteer, please? 100 people in the room. And you're going to leave me dry? Can I have a volunteer, please? Okay, I'm going to stay here all day until I found a volunteer. And the queue is showing me a Genie. Madam, thank you very much. Please come onto the stage. Give her a big hand. Thanks so much. Hey, I'm Luca. What's your name?
Charlotte.
Charlotte. What company are you from?
The Bono.
Thanks a lot for coming up.
Thank you.
You should call a tenor.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks. Lucky, huh? She's lucky. And she came from a good family. And she had this and she had that. I can't get up. Not as good. Right? That's what we do. I do that. I would never get up. I would never have gotten up. So, well done. I will never have done it. Because I'm scared. I'm going to be embarrassed. Am I going to be exposed? Right? I wrote a 308-page book and I'm still insecure. Right? We all do that. Why didn't you get up? I mean, you don't have to, who am I? You don't have to answer me, but answer yourself, why didn't you get up? How many times in life, and this is not a psychology session, I promise, how many times in life don't we get up? How many times don't we get up and we should? And then we say, oh, people were lucky. Oh, it didn't work out for us. Oh, the conditions were right. How many times do we all do that? And this is the same thing. None of what we'll do today, we have an amazing opportunity to hear from Google, with Vanda, and Satalia, who is a company that I'm so in love with, from Adam, super amazing stuff. And you know what? It'll all be useless if you do nothing with it. Some of the stuff obviously won't be applicable, but at the very least, it should spark some curiosity to go out and read more, to go out and find out more. But if we don't get up, I think we may as well just go and drink coffee now. It's almost beer time, so my advice to you is get up. But when we have something like AI, machine learning, and technology, I think it's important to plan because it can all mount up to a very expensive exercise, both in time and money otherwise. So a while ago, we took the senior management team to the mountaintop in Italy. I think Kieran was joking and saying, no, we need a mountain trip to figure out our strategy a few years ago. And I think I'm a bit autistic in that way, so I went and booked it. And we went to Lake Como, which is where I grew up, and we booked this massive villa in the state, off-season, so there was nobody there. It was always amazing to see that place empty every day. You wake up with this view, sometimes sunnier, but always empty because it was off-season. And we started writing on walls, and that was our first draft of mission. we wrote on a window, hoping it would come off at the end of the day. We literally wrote everywhere, and we started putting post-its pretty much anywhere they would take it, based on the sprint methodology. Then Keenan bought a book and some notes, and we're going to do this. The sprint methodology suggests you do this in 5 days. We didn't have that time, we had 3.5, so we just did very long days. Locked ourselves into this room and literally just wrote and wrote and wrote anywhere they would take it. In this very beautiful villa, in this empty estate. It's crazy, it goes on forever, right? And then this came up. And this caused a big uproar, because one day the cleaning team came up, knocked at the door, looked at me, and said, we would like to clean. I said, no, don't worry, you don't need to clean, because we're only here for work. We're going to be going tomorrow morning, so don't worry about it. And then she went kind of pale, and I couldn't understand why. She went very frightened, and there was 3 or 4 of them, and then they went away. And then we realized these pictures, instead of looking like me on the phone with a prospective customer, looked like somebody wanted to shoot everybody in town. And then we realized why. So we were very prepared to see the police knocking on the door anytime from that moment. But what happened 5 years ago, whenever that was, is that we came up with a mission that drives every single decision that we make. We have made some difficult decisions recently, sometimes not to take on a very lucrative client because it didn't fall into the criteria of this mission. We either couldn't really revolutionize their marketing, or we thought it was a great retail brand. We want to work with brands that we either love or can learn to love. And if that's not there, we know we're only going to be mediocre. We don't love every brand that we work with when we start, but we think that we need to learn to love them. And if we can't do that because maybe they are in a vertical that we don't perhaps like, then we don't take them on. I'm not saying that the vertical is bad, just that we don't take them on. For example, gambling, we just, it doesn't matter how much money they'll pay us, we just don't work with that. So it's very important that we live by that mission, and it really served us right all these years, and we were able to grow as much as we did because of that. And the first iteration of that mission was written on a window after a 3.5-day trip where we almost got arrested. And we spent half of those 3.5 days cleaning the windows and getting rid of the post-its. So my invite to you, if you do have anything that is chunky, is to take the time to plan. You all have taken the time to come here today. So appreciative of that. It's so hard to take half a day out of your schedule to come and listen to, something that you may find useless. You did. So the same way that you did that, my invite is go plan, ask people, get the expertise in, and come up with an AI, machine learning, technology, whatever it is, strategy that can take you through the hard times. What we're here today to do is to tell you essentially 3 things. The first one is what we don't know about AI. I think I did that very well. The second is what we do know about AI. Vanda did that very well. And Adam here is going to tell you how you can use AI and machine learning in your business every day. What are the real applications? Satalia is an incredible company that, apart from having built a flat hierarchy-less structure, which is remarkable in itself, has also spent all the years developing AI and ML solutions for people like you. So Adam will talk to you about how you can use AI and what AI means for you.
Seasonality, events, so forth. And again, based on those predictions, how do we optimize our prices across our portfolio of rooms in order to maximize revenue? We also do customer churn analysis for retailers and a company called Tech Data, who sell the likes of Dell or Apple to PC World, for instance. And their problem is, again, customer churn analysis. So we're using machine learning to recognize when someone's likely to churn, or when someone's likely to cross-sell, or when someone's likely to upsell. Again, we're using optimization to then say, okay, how do we then allocate our resources in order to stop them churning, or increase upsell, or increase cross-sell. So these are the types of solutions we build. Here's some of the clients we work with, and I'll talk more about these later on. But first of all, I want to take a step back, and we recognise that there's a huge, probably rightly so, a huge amount of hype around these technologies. The data in the middle has remained exactly the same, right? It's the context in which it sits which changed the meaning of that data. Okay, so the light that's entering your eye is exactly the same. It's just purely the context in which it sits which changes its meaning. My laptop is sick. What does that mean? broke. One option is it's broke. What else could it mean?
Really performing well.
Exactly. Okay, so again, depending on the context in which this sentence is being said, has a massive implication on the meaning of that context. Again, the light that's entering your eyes is exactly the same. The context of that data changes the meaning of that data. Last one. John read the letter to Mary. Picture that scene in your head. What is the scene? Okay. John read the letter to Mary. John read the letter, starting to Mary. John read the letter, which is the name of a book, to Mary. John was a teacher reading the letters A, B, and C to Mary. There's probably 15 or 16 different interpretations of the same sentence. And again, the data is exactly the same, okay, but the context in which it sits, the context in which it's being said, dramatically changes the meaning. Okay, so data is just stuff, and information is the contextualization of that data. And Google and Amazon are very, very good at building systems which take in all of the messy, unstructured data from the world and give it meaning, give it context. Okay, data is just stuff. Information is the contextualization of that data. So the next step on this pyramid is knowledge. And again, I'm going to go slightly abstract. I'm going to imagine that you all own an ice cream company. Okay, you all own an ice cream company, and your goal is to maximize your sales. And you've gathered some data, you've contextualized it, and now in a spreadsheet or in a Google sheet, you have 3 columns of information. Okay, you have the day's date, the temperature, and the number of ice creams you sold. Day's date, temperature, number of ice creams. What would you do with that information to then make it useful? What would be the next step?
Predict when demand is high.
Sorry?
Predict when demand is high.
Yeah, at some point you would, but the first thing you'd do, right, is you'd organise it, right? So we'd argue that knowledge is just organised information. So you'd put it into a graph, right? And how's that graph going to look? Temperature, sales. Yeah, so it's going to upwards and to the right. Okay, so the hotter it gets, the more ice creams you sell. Okay, we define this as descriptive analytics. You may have heard the term. This is basically taking data from the past, plotting it, and using some visualizations to describe what's happened. What you could then do, albeit oversimplified, is you could draw a line through it. Yeah, and what you have here, all of a sudden, you now have predictive power. Okay, so if it's 30 degrees tomorrow, you can predict that you're going to sell 100 ice creams. Okay, albeit oversimplified, this is essentially the role of machine learning. Okay, machine learning is very, very good at recognizing patterns and making predictions from data. Okay, what you could then do is you could take this model, you take this machine learning model, and you could put it into a factory that starts to automate the production of ice creams. It starts to automate decision making. Okay, so if it's going to be 30 degrees tomorrow, it's predicted you'll sell 100 ice creams. Therefore, you need to manufacture this many ice creams, 100 ice creams. You need to spend this much on marketing. You need to hire this many people. You need to have this many retail stands. It starts to make decisions. Okay, and this is not machine learning. This is the role of optimization algorithms. Machine learning, very, very good, recognizing patterns, making predictions from data. It isn't particularly good at then allocating resources in order to achieve a goal. That's the role of optimization. Okay, so if you imagine this stack, this automation or data-driven decision-making stack, you've got one component which is getting in data, another component which is leveraging that data to then make predictions or recognize some patterns, and the final bit is then using optimization to allocate your resources in order to achieve a goal. Okay, and all is well. You've built this system, you've put it into a factory, and it's making you loads of money. Okay. What would happen if tomorrow is the hottest day ever recorded? How many? It's like 80 degrees Celsius. How many ice creams do you think you'd sell?
No one will be able to leave the house.
No one would leave the house. But the model is telling you you're going to sell an absolute ton of ice cream. So the model is wrong. Okay? All the model knows is temperature versus sales. We know that that's the case because we know that we go outside because it's hot, we enjoy hot weather, we buy ice cream, we put it in our mouth, it cools us down, it makes us feel good. Okay, essentially we understand the law of thermodynamics. But the model's view of the world is very, very narrow, so it doesn't understand it, so it makes bad decisions. Okay, so what typically happens in industry, in every company will be going on a journey to figure out how they automate their processes, and they'll often be using maybe one or two of these different technologies. Okay, so they might be using some sort of business intelligence tool to bring in data and use it to make some visualizations. They might be slightly more advanced. They might be using machine learning to make some predictions or recognize some patterns in their data, which then they can make decisions on. But very, very few organizations are using both the data component, the machine learning component, and the optimization component. Very, very few. So what tends to happen in industry is that humans are left to make these types of resource allocation decisions. Okay, humans are left to say, this is how many ice creams we should produce, this is how much we should spend on marketing, this is how many retail stands we have. Okay, and we argue that this is a problem for two reasons. Okay? How many of you have read this book? Yeah, so this is a very popular book, Behavioral Economics. Kahneman basically argues that there are two decision-making systems in the brain. There's one which is very fast, very reactive, very immediate, and the second one is slower, more purposeful, more reliable. Okay, and he argues that in complex environments, such as those we all operate in, we are more prone to use this system one, okay, the fast decision-making system. Okay, so I'm going to now put up a question. If you've already read this book and don't answer it, I'm going to put up a seemingly a very simple maths question, and I want you to answer it as fast as you possibly can. Okay, don't think about it, just answer it. Okay, because if you don't, then your competitors will. Okay, so a bat and the ball combined price is £1.10p. The bat costs £1 more than the ball. How much is the ball? How many of you thought 10p? How many? 10p? Okay, yeah. So the answer is 5p. Right? So these are the types of decisions. Every problem will have these types of resource allocation, optimization decisions. Every company will have these types of decisions to make. And often, they're obviously more complex than this. And often we make bad decisions because we are biased. We are inherently biased in these types of environments. And it's not our fault, but these biases exist, okay? Another one, if you are, a lecturer or an examiner, and you're marking someone's exam or marking someone's paper, and if you put a pen in your mouth like this, it forces you to frown. Okay, it forces your muscles in your face to frown, and you're more likely to negatively mark that paper. If you put a pen in your mouth like this, it forces you to smile, you're feeling positive, and you're more likely to upgrade that paper. There are hundreds of these biases that are present in organizational decision making. Okay, another one is if you go into an interview with a hot cup of coffee, you give it to the person you're speaking with, they're more likely to physically warm to you. Okay, they're more likely to warm to you as a person. Okay, it seems ridiculous, absolutely, it seems ridiculous, but there are these types of decisions in industry, and we are biased when we make them. Okay, so that's the first reason that we are biased. The second one is that they're incredibly complicated. Okay, how much to spend on marketing, how many ice creams to make, these types of decisions are unbelievably hard. So here's an example. Imagine you have 5 Pokemon, and your challenge is how many different ways of arranging these Pokemon are there? Okay, how many possible combinations while satisfying these rules? Okay, male next to female, red next to blue, and so forth. How many combinations of Pokemon do you think there are? There's 5 Pokemon, right? So it's 120. So just 5 different things. There are 120 different ways of arranging those things. 15 Pokemon. There's over 1 trillion ways of arranging them. 500 Pokemon. There are more ways of arranging those Pokemon than there are atoms in the universe. Okay, these are exponentially hard problems. So this is pretty much the problem we solved for PwC. Instead of having 500 Pokemon, they had 4,000 members of staff. Instead of having 5 rules, they had 50 different constraints. Okay, and these are problems that every organisation will have. Here's another one, which some of you may know. This is the travelling salesman problem. You have 24 points on a map. You've got to make 24 deliveries. Let's say you had a processor which would calculate 1 million routes per second. How long do you think it would take that processor to calculate the most efficient route? So 20 billion years. Yeah, 20 billion years. If someone else makes a delivery and it's now 25, that goes up to 400 billion years. Okay, obviously this is a brute force approach. Obviously there are algorithms which can do this a lot faster, but these are problems which organizations don't necessarily know they have. These are decision-making optimization problems, and we get them wrong all the time. Okay, so we apply optimization to solve these types of problems. So to summarize, in our view, data-driven decision-making is made up of 3 components. The first of which is taking in data from the world, contextualizing it, giving it meaning, managing it, processing it, storing it, and that's the role of infrastructure, APIs, sensors, Internet of Things, all getting in data. Okay. The second of which is to then take that data and put it through a model of the world. Okay, remember our ice cream model, sales and temperature. Put it through some sort of model to make some predictions and recognize some insights. Okay. And the third bit, which is often neglected in industry, is how do we then take those predictions or take those insights and use optimization algorithms to actually make decisions. Okay, and again, that's the role of optimization. That's operations research, decision science, and so forth. Okay, those 3 components, in our view, is what makes up automation or data-driven decision-making. So it's important when you're looking across your businesses is that where can we add value using these different sets of technology. Okay, this is not AI. we'd argue that this is not AI. Okay, our favourite definition of AI is goal-directed adaptive behaviour. And what I mean by that is that it has to have a goal, okay, to maximise ice cream sales or to reduce fuel consumption. Crucially, it has to behave, in that it has to be able to make decisions. But the crucial word here is adaptive. It has to be able to adapt in real time, in production environments, without the aid of a human. Okay, if we go back to our ice cream example, you have this system which is automated. Okay, you put it into this ice cream factory and it starts to make decisions. Yeah, one day is the hottest day ever recorded, and it makes a bad decision. Okay, it tells you to manufacture a load of ice cream when in reality no one's going to go outside. Arguably, in today, what happens is we recognise that it made a bad decision. We take it offline. We give it to some data scientists or machine learning experts. They then update the model. They make it more sophisticated, tweak it, update it. Then they put it back into production. Okay, so that process, it is adapting, but we'd argue that it's done mostly offline. The actual model is done offline and by humans. And we'd argue for it to be truly intelligent, it has to be doing it on its own, in real time, in production. It has to recognise that it makes a bad decision, and if you give the same data, it would make a different decision. Lots of systems today, you give it different data, obviously it's going to make a different decision. But it has to be given the same data and make a different decision. And that's crucial as to what we believe AI to be. And the reason why it's very, very difficult to build these systems that are in production, making decisions on their own and adapting on their own, is because it's very, very hard to predict how these systems are going to adapt. Okay, so a couple of years ago, there was an incident whereby Microsoft released a bot on Twitter. Yeah, anyone see this? Called Tay, I think they exposed it to all of the data on Twitter. They let it adapt on its own in a real-time in production environment, and within a number of hours, it became a racist, fascist, sexist bot. Yeah, so these are systems which, if you put them in production, you have to know how they're going to predict. Okay, and this is why it's not that AI doesn't exist, but it's very, very tricky to get them into production environments. Okay, if you're a marketing manager and you go to your IT director and say, I've got this system, and I'm going to put it into this environment, I can't tell you how it's going to adapt though. How reasonable is that? Okay, so we'd argue that AI is goal-directed adaptive behaviour, and it's hard. It's very, very hard to get right. Okay, so I'm going to very briefly touch on ethics, but Luca has already kind of mentioned this. We believe that there are systems now which will outperform humans at specific tasks, and over the years, and I'm not going to go on to the superintelligence, that there will be AIs which can outperform humans at wider categories of tasks. But before we get there, we have to answer a very similar problem. So this is a very similar problem to the one that Luca mentioned. This is the trolley problem. You're in a driving car, self-driving car. The brakes on that car fail. In the road, there's 2 adults, 2 kids, and then a cliff. Who do you kill? Again, sorry to lower the tone. I know it's already been done, but this is not a new question, right? This is not a question really of who do you kill. This is a question of what is good in the world. What is the right thing to do? Okay, this is a question that we've been philosophizing and pontificating for all of time. Okay, and historically we've been very, very good at asking these types of questions, but not particularly good at actually answering them. But what's interesting about this point in history is, as Luca mentioned, we're going to have to start hard coding or systemizing the answers to these questions in systems that are going to be making decisions on our behalf. How on earth do we solve those types of challenges? I don't have the answer to these, but again, these are the types of challenges which we'll face. Okay, so within retail, I've tried to simplify how I view retail as a landscape, and I see it as a spectrum. So on one side of the spectrum, you have consumers who, as you say, are very demanding and very impatient, and they want fast, cheap, reliable, high selection, highly convenient, low-cost products. Okay, the Amazon type offering of the world. Okay, low, fast, cheap offering. On the other side of the spectrum, you're going to have these retailers who are going to have to, in order to give people a reason to shop directly with their brands, have to start offering really experiential, in-store, memorable experiences. Okay, and then you have those in the middle, which are neither here nor there, which I believe will suffer in years to come. So in terms of the spectrum, you want to be using technology to go either one way or the other, and I believe that it's entirely possible to do this. So if you go left towards fast, cheap, reliable offering, there's a whole host of different technologies which you can essentially do to build out a deep operational capability. So on the front end, you can offer this fast, cheap, reliable offering. So just a kind of a list of examples: last mile delivery optimization, lots of stuff around fulfillment. How do you actually fulfill that brand promise of next day delivery or 2-day delivery or whatever? Warehouse optimization, automation, robotics within warehouses, to again operational type activities to improve that front end offering. Store placement optimization, which again is about how do we predict demand for a particular store, where do we place our next store, predicting demand for a particular store, and then using that to allocate budget. Marketing spend optimization, again, if we can predict demand in a particular demographic, if we can do that, then we can allocate marketing budget to those particular demographics. Customer churn analysis, again, this is a kind of an operational type thing, really. If you can recognize that someone's going to churn and then allocate your resources in order to stop that churn, then you can continue to operate these types of things. Workforce and labor optimization. Why do we necessarily have fixed times within stores? Why do people work 9 to 5 shift when actually people are actually going to be mostly in the store, let's say between 5 and 8 p.m. after work? How can you allocate your resources, having predicted demand for those particular stores? How can you then allocate your resources in order to fulfill that demand? In-store analytics is another really good one. Anyone heard of the company Hoxton Analytics? This is a really interesting company. So they basically have sensors that they put on like shoe level of stores, and basically they take images of people's shoes as they walk into stores. Okay, so you don't know who they are because you can't see their face, so kind of get through that privacy concern. But basically they're taking pictures of people's shoes, and it's amazing how much information, how much insight you can get from the shoes that people wear. Right? If you're wearing Nike and it's a certain size and it's a certain age, you can put them into a particular bracket. You can put them into a particular segment, right? If they aspire to wear affluent brands, they take good care of their shoes, they're male, you can get an awful lot from just a shoe. So there are these kind of operational investments in technology which you can make in order to improve that front end offering. Another one is clearly recommendation systems and personalization systems and so forth. The other end of the spectrum is kind of a hybrid approach. And this is, again, the idea here is to completely differentiate yourself from an online store. I think Lego do this really well. Yeah, you can go and buy Lego online, you don't. You go into their store. You don't really buy it for the product. Right? If you're shopping on Amazon, you're buying the product. You want to create experiences where you're not really buying the product, you're buying the people, or you're buying the experience. Okay? Lego do this really well, Nespresso do it really well, Apple arguably do it really well. Their stores are kind of physical reputations of their brand, right? They've done incredibly well with, again, expertise, subject enthusiasts, people who are very, very well trained. So the argument here is essentially to look across your organization and look to the parts of your business whereby humans are not necessarily adding any value. So within a retail brand, for instance, it might be the checkout, it might be labeling, having to get people around going labeling stuff or put prices and stuff. Arguably, humans are not adding any value there. So look across your organization and to see where humans aren't adding value. Take the savings, the efficiency savings from those investments and invest it in people, invest it in talent. And I think this is going to be the case in all industries. You see it in film, okay? On one end of the spectrum, you have Netflix, you have fast, cheap, reliable, high selection. On the other end, you have these pop-up cinemas which are happening, which are, have actors in them, or you get food brought to your seats. The spectrum is key, and you can use technology to go to either way or either side of this spectrum. Has anyone read this book? This is a book by Scott Galloway, who's a professor of marketing at NYU, and I absolutely urge you to go and read this book. He has 8 metrics for what he believes makes a successful company. One of the really important ones, which I've picked out, is, are we a Benjamin Button company? Are we aging in reverse? How many sensors or receptors do we have out there in the world? How quickly can we get those receptors or get insight from those receptors and improve our offering? Google is a Benjamin Button company. It improves at every search. Okay, Facebook is, Amazon is. Okay, how can you become a Benjamin Button company where you essentially age in reverse? Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is innovation. This is in the context of AI, yes, but also in the context of organizational design and culture and talent. So our favourite definition of innovation is creativity that ships. Okay, and the most important word here isn't creativity, it's not having an idea, it's not even the shipping of that idea, but it's the process that translates an idea into something that is shippable. Okay, the speed and the effectiveness of that process, we think, determines how innovative you are as an organisation. And as technology becomes commoditized and more accessible, as it is doing, okay, so the Googles and the Amazons of the world can provide completely commoditized, essentially, cloud computing. What happened with data sets, stuff like TensorFlow and AWS can provide essentially accessible or commoditized machine learning, and eventually we'll get to the point where we have completely commoditized AI. Okay, and so typically previously companies have been able to differentiate by investing in technology, but it will come a time whereby everyone has access to that technology, so it won't necessarily be a source of differentiation. So the only thing that's going to differentiate one brand or one retailer or one company from another is by their ability to attract, retain, and empower world-class talent. Okay, that's how companies will win and lose of the future. So at Italia, what we do obviously is we go and build systems for organizations. We also have a consultancy arm whereby we go and help companies understand how they're going to go and build their own internal teams, or how they're going to build out a capability within these technologies. And we do that by positioning them on this matrix. On one axis you have the sexiness of your industry or the sexiness of your brand, and on the other axis you have the challengingness of your problems. Okay, and we feel that it's important for organisations to know where they sit on this matrix so that they can understand how they're going to build out their own internal capability or work with partners to do so. So if you're here, it's unlikely you're going to be able to attract the right talent. If you're in these two boxes, then you might be able to attract the right talent, but they'll churn. Okay, and this is just a bigger problem because they take all their knowledge with them. If you're in these types of boxes, you will attract talent and they'll stick. And we don't do this to make companies feel bad. We do it because if you're here, it's unlikely, and you have to admit it's unlikely, that you're going to be able to build out your own internal capability in AI. Okay, and so thus you'll have to work with partners in order to do so. If you're here, then it's likely you're going to be able to attract the right talent and thus build out your own capability. Google obviously can attract the right talent and can sit here, so it doesn't necessarily have to work with other providers. Other industries will, and so we help organizations go on a journey to build out their strategies within AI and also understand how they're going to, what's their talent strategy, essentially. I'm just going to leave this slide up here for a minute or so and just let it sit in. Can you all see that? I hope you can. So, this, as you've probably seen, this is a very crude depiction of an organizational hierarchy. Okay? And it's fairly well known, fairly well researched, that a huge amount of someone's time, a huge amount of someone's cognitive thinking is spent thinking about politics and bureaucracy, right? And so you're seeing organisations that are starting to remove layers of management and move towards flatter kind of organisational structures. At Italia, we've moved to a completely different approach. We don't have any hierarchy. We are 100 people. We have no managers, no bosses, no rules, there's no KPIs, there's no concept of the word holiday. People literally work on the projects they want, when, where, and how they want to. Okay, we think that happiness is directly related to people's motivation. Okay, and we think there are 4 or 5 things that people are motivated by. One is freedom. Okay, give people the freedom to do the work they want, wherever, however they want to. Okay, the second is autonomy. Okay, give people the freedom to make their own decisions and be in control of their own decisions. The third is mastery. So give people the opportunity to become masters of their craft. The fourth one is purpose, which is 2-pronged, which is small p, which is that one individual knows that he or she is contributing to that organisation and that that organisation has a wider purpose in society. And the last one, which is often left out, is safety, psychological safety. Okay, we want people to feel safe, both physically and psychologically, to learn, to fail, to grow, to develop. Okay, so we take all of the systems that we generate externally for clients, we take those same technologies, machine learning, optimization, we apply them internally to build systems that allow us to operate in a completely decentralized way. An example of this is last summer we went through a public pay review process. Everyone in the company made public recommendations for their own salary. Anyone else in the company could then vote on those salaries to increase them, decrease them, or approve that recommendation. What we then did is we took all of the data that we generate as a company from all of our digital tools, such as Slack or Google or email or Microsoft or Word or whatever. We took all of the data and we analysed it using machine learning to understand the strength of 2 people's relationship. And the strength of 2 people's relationship determined the weight of someone else's vote on someone else's salary. We married that with market rate, we married that with the perception of other people as strategic decision makers to essentially create a peer-to-peer network pay review process which is augmented by machine learning. So we eat our own dog food, right? We drink our own champagne. We totally believe in these systems. These are by no means perfect, but our situation, we don't have managers, and we believe fundamentally that the person that's closest to the context of a decision is the best person to make that decision. It's our job to supply them with the right context and information to make that decision, with really, really interesting findings. So it's fairly well known that males are more likely to bump up their own salaries than females. Okay, that's fairly well known. We had a member of our organisation, Desi, who made a recommendation for our salary. Only because that recommendation was public and available to everyone could we huddle around her and say, no, you're worth more. Okay, had those recommendations been private, that would not have happened. That is an inherent bias that exists, and only because that was open could we huddle around and say, no, that's not right. Okay, and I'd say by no means is this a perfect process, but we are agile and we are adapting this process to make people feel safer. Another example is we are building. This is an example of the type of things that we can do. So we can understand people's strengths and relationship. We can understand where there are gaps in the organisation. We can understand who are perceived as strong decision makers. We can understand the sentiment of people's relationships. We can understand a whole lot from this data. Another thing we're doing is essentially looking at the role of the manager and trying to automate it. So a manager potentially might be someone who gathers information, disseminates information, right? So all of our reporting is automated. We are automating the function of resourcing. Okay, essentially, if you can look at a project and you can essentially, it's like playing a game with Tetris, you can look at the shape of that project. Okay, what skills will it require? How much time is it going to take? What's the makeup of the team that's required? We can then use machine learning to match that type of project to someone in our organisation who we know has the skills, has the capacity, and is wanting to work on those projects. So we can use machine learning to automate the role of resourcing. And so these are just some of the experiments that we're doing internally as an organisation to make a completely decentralised organisation. This is more of the same. So again, who is perceived strongly as decision makers? Who is where are relationships? Where are their gaps? Where are their risks? Okay, if we can identify where there are risks in the organisation in terms of someone is isolated in one part of the organisation, then we can make decisions based on that. This is our tool which we use to do reporting. So, for instance, for each individual project, we know how much time people are spending on it exactly. We know the cost of that, we know their salaries, we know the skills that they are doing. And yes, of course, this is a lot of information to gather. We obviously consent to gathering this information, but more importantly, people really get why we're doing it. People really understand the philosophy behind it, which is that we are smarter, we're faster, we're more innovative because we can make decentralized decisions, and people are happier because of it. That's everything. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but yeah, thank you very much.
Let's imagine that you did your research as a retail brand. You know it's important and you know that you need people, right? So you assume that the people that you'll find will be technically skilled. So beyond that, what personal attributes do these people need to have to bring AI into the e-commerce and retail space? What do they look like in person so that they can add value?
The quality of the end solution is determined by how well you can translate a business problem into a mathematical problem. Okay, that is the modelling process is really important. And so when we look for talent, we're not only looking for a technical capability, but we're looking for people who can interact with other parts of the business. Okay, so when we go into an organisation, we spend a long time understanding the business, understanding what the rules or the constraints that are in people's heads. Okay, so when you're employing someone who is technically focused, a crucial aspect of that is that they have to be able to interact with other stakeholders so they can essentially model the problem. Because if it becomes the point where there's someone doing the modelling and someone doing the solution, it becomes a game of Chinese whispers, okay, and the end solution will impact on that. So we look for people who are T-shaped, essentially, so that they have a deep speciality in one skill, but they have then a broader area of skill where they can work across the business in different functions. So that's the type of people we look for. As Talia, the main two things that we employ for, regardless of kind of obviously technical capability, is are they kind and are they curious? And we think that lends itself to a happy workforce and a more productive one as a result of that. So it's worth thinking obviously about the technical kind of harder stuff, but think about them as a person as well. I think is really important.
On that very quickly, so imagine that you have somebody in the house that is a good candidate to cover that, but is not technically equipped yet. But it's got the right mentality, it's got the right personal attributes and inquisitive attitude.
Yeah.
Is that a way to, well, would you employ somebody like that? Is that a way to train these people to become technically sound?
Yeah, I mean, if you have the resource in-house to do training on the job, then great. If someone isn't technically minded, doesn't mean they're not necessarily right for the job. There's just a different role for them. So with all of these products or solutions, you need someone to be someone who's defining the vision, right? You need someone to manage the product development. You need someone to keep people on track. It's essentially like just a project, right? So you need those kind of visionaries and people who aren't so technically minded. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to have the absolute kind of technical credentials. They have to have an overview or an understanding of the types of technologies that are used in order to get the best out of the people who do. So typically a product team will have a mixture of product owner, who is essentially driving forward the product and its vision and its features and requirements and so forth, plus the people who are actually doing the development. So it's crucial to have that mix.
Great. Over to you guys. Who's got the next question? Kieran.
I've got a question, maybe to both of you. So tend to associate digital advertising and customer acquisition with a lot of innovation. You know, there's a space, lots of data flying around, Facebook and Google and so on, spend a lot on helping to reach customers. But retail, on the other hand, I tend to think of at the moment, it's been quite a hard press sector with not a lot of R&D.
Hiya.
Start again, will you please?
Again. So I'm just wondering about digital advertising tends to be thought of as quite an innovative space. Lots of money being spent on reaching customers more and in a more customised way. Retail, I might be wrong, but I tend to think of at the moment as in quite a hard-pressed sector with lots of restricted margins and not a huge amount of R&D budgets around on things like user experience. Are you seeing much innovation in retail?
Yeah. So we work with Tesco, obviously, who are doing lots. We're looking another client of ours, who are really doing really good things, is DFS actually, and DFS are an incredibly innovative company, believe it or not, and they're small enough for us to solve all of retail, essentially, end to end. So we started with last mile delivery, so delivering sofas, but we're now doing things like predicting reliability of suppliers, so they can predict when things are going to come into their warehouse, so they can then predict when they're going to get out of the warehouse. So I think all these retailers are starting to look not just at front end interactions, but they're starting to think actually operationally, how can we stack up? How can we build an operational excellence kind of capability, which is going to allow us to deliver on the front end. But yeah, we haven't necessarily seen retailers being laggards or slower than anyone else. We have a good proportion of our clients are retailers, and obviously they're squeezed, but they're also having to react, right? They're having to react to the Amazons of the world. They're having to do stuff, and that obviously puts them under a bit of pressure to go out and look for innovative solutions, which we're seeing.
And how does that look within a retailer? Do you have R&D teams within retailers that you work with? Where does the innovation come from?
Yeah, so I guess we don't necessarily work directly with R&D teams. We, when we go out and build stuff, we are essentially an extended team. So depending on their resource that they have in-house, we might work as an extended AI team to existing teams. We don't necessarily work directly with R&D, but we do kind of education. So we do things like this for R&D teams, so they can spark thought in terms of what's important for them. Yeah.
Who wants this?
Anybody else? This is your time, guys. Ask away.
You said DFS was relatively small, you can help them, but for a lot of retailers they're a lot smaller than DFS. So if you are quite a small retailer, how can you start implementing and using AI in your systems?
Yeah, so I think similar rules apply in that you have to first of all understand exactly what these systems are and what they're capable of. I think also when it comes to smaller retailers, there's lots in terms of stuff that's already out there that can be implemented a lot faster and cheaper. So the likes of, Google and AWS offer these off-the-shelf tools, which if you hire a short-term resource in order to learn how to leverage these tools, is actually going to be valuable. So ideally, eventually, you might want to be building your own in-house teams. But while potentially resource is an issue, using off-the-shelf tools is still incredibly valuable, and potentially hiring a part-time resource to go and learn about how these systems work and then apply it to your business, I think is valuable, instead of trying to build out your own solution in-house first of all, which is a big behemoth of a task, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we see with some of our clients, oftentimes asking ourselves why we want to build something, it's a good place to start. Because half the things that we see retailers wanting to do is not the stuff that they need to do. It's a very fine line, and it's very important to understand that some of the stuff may be fancy, some of the stuff may be covered in the press, but maybe it's not useful. One, internally as an agency, we're actually now questioning the way we build technology this far, because we build incredible technology, but do we need to be building? Or maybe can we use something that already exists and then focus on stuff that doesn't exist? So I think questioning perhaps our own presuppositions is a very good place to start. Anybody else? Thanks, James.
Hi. You mentioned earlier with the kind of car explanation about who would you save, for example. And I was wondering, what do you think the limitations of AI would be in terms of like moral compass, like compassion? Like, can they think? Could it think like a human? Could it kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one to answer.
I think what would be fun if you answer and I answer, we'll probably give you opposite answers.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that one. I don't know how we'll solve that problem. Essentially, we have to start to answer these questions as a society, and obviously there are hugely different opinions as to what is the right thing to do. So to start to hard code it, I mean, I think potentially what's going to happen, instead of the system making those types of decisions, we'll be forced to make them on an individual level as opposed to the system level across boards. Potentially there'll be, I don't know, a button for whether you prefer children or whatever, I don't know. But I think it will be an agile process. I think we'll have to learn a lot as to what society feels. But obviously it's an incredibly hard question, which is not a particularly good answer, but just staying out of the question mark.
No, I add my own opinion at this stage. That's all I can offer. But there are people like Elon Musk even, and people like Sam Harris who strongly advocate against the development of AI to the point where it becomes SI, super intelligent. Because at that stage, the machine will decide what to learn and will self-learn independently of human beings.